want to follow me now, to follow me. Take me to your arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy. Tell me if you want to follow me now, to follow me. Take me to your arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy. 'Cause I don't want to be alone. Tell me if you want to follow me now, to follow me. Take me to your arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy. Tell me if you want to follow me now, to follow me. Take me to your arms and never leave me. Don't leave me, boy.
Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. They're three wide again. Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across. They're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
Before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy. You know, these are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower.
Brake. Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, you can look and a drift is going off.
Ben Gregory now, I love it. 10.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chaz Draycott Media, and welcome to the penultimate round in Season 5 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. The series comes to a circuit it has never raced at before for a 1 hour long endurance race. It's great to be back to the usual format, and the championship could be wrapped up this evening. But to guide you through all the action, you've got myself, Chaz Draycott, and the wonderful Ed May alongside me. Ed, really excited to see what these guys have got in store here. We've commentated on this circuit a few times between us, but never with GT4s like this. This should be good fun.
It really should do, and I think this is a circuit that's going to lend itself to some excellent racing in these GT4s, just because obviously of that long straight in towards that final chicane. We do see a lot of action in various different forms of racing, various different classes, but these GT4s always give us some entertaining racing on circuits where we don't often see overtaking, like what we saw last week at Zandvoort. But this time tonight, on a circuit where action is almost guaranteed, we should be in for a real treat tonight.
We absolutely should be. The championship could be wrapped up, as I've mentioned, and that is because Jake Cranstone is top of the pile by 48 points. He's having an absolute barnstormer at the moment. He is really, really flying, but there are 50 points available in the championship now. If he finishes so high as 18th tonight and scores just 3 championship points, nobody can do anything about it. Taylor Adams could take pole position and a win. They would be tied on basically, well, there would be 50 points between them, and that would mean then that Taylor has to win the final round and Jake has to somehow lose points. So Jake would be champion. Satellite Racing Blue lead the teams championship though, only 40 points ahead of Regenta, who are then only 10 points ahead of Apex Racing Academy. So it's a 3-way fight in there for the teams championship at the moment, and that could still go any which way. It's been good to have Taylor Adams back, because let's not forget Regenta Sim Racing dropped a bunch of points with Taylor's absence, and obviously it's affected his drivers championship too. But he was back as of Zandvoort, and it was a bit of a mixed round for them and Apex and Satellite Racing Blue as well, because Satellite Racing Blue, let's not forget, Ed, double DNF in the first race, considering they had 2 cars in the top 3 positions of the grid. It was a big hit, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was a real shame for them, because they looked set for so much. They were, I think, first and second at one stage, and then all of a sudden it just came crashing down around them. It's so tricky to convert what can be good pace in theory into good race results in practice, just because of the nature of this championship and how much these drivers love to go at it out on circuit. The fine margins that we have here in this championship, with the level getting higher and higher each season, does mean that those sort of good team results can be fewer and far between. We see now a driver that doesn't have any teammate with him. It's just Jake Cranstone by himself, the Masters of Torque Porsche Cayman in the 78, but he hasn't needed any help, has he really? He's made his own way in this season and could be on for a very commanding championship victory here tonight if things go his way.
Yeah, absolutely. You may see the liveries updating here for just a moment, everybody. I'm afraid I've made a little bit of a mess, because I was doing some screenshots for another GT4 championship last night, and a lot of these guys do race in said championship, so some of the cars don't have the usual Sim Racing Magazine banners on them that we would normally see, but I'm in the process of updating them now, so you will see a few of them be changed here and there as we go through this practice session. But yeah, Jake Cranstone, not a massive amount to do tonight in terms of finishing positions, but still pressure on him to just get it across the line and just have a clean race though, Ed. Makes all the difference, doesn't it, as a driver, to know that you could take a championship and that be that.
Yeah, you know, it's basically in your own hands, and you can sort of go into it with a lot of peace of mind, and as well knowing that even a simple top 10, which is easily achievable for Jake Cranstone, is going to be enough to seal the deal. In fact, I think it is, what did we say earlier, 18th would be enough for Jake to seal the deal here tonight by scoring 3 points. But we know that Jake's going to want to win a championship the way everybody does, with a race victory, and at the moment his pace looks like he could be a bit of a shout for that result, as we have Chaz Tem in the session as well, one of the 2 Dutchmen that had a great time out at the home circuit. It really seemed to work out well for them.
Yeah, it really did. 2 Dutch drivers on the podium in race 1, and then I think Matthias ended up in 4th place, I think it was, in race 2, and it was his countryman that was absolutely flying out there, Dennis van Beelen. Dennis is in the pits at the moment, so we'll look at his teammate Ben Idris Abdullahi. Seems like the BMW not going beautifully round here tonight, although I say that, and Kyle Ridley in their latest livery, my race will go on. Hopefully it does for him, because he's up in 3rd position. He's doing a mighty fine job with top of the pops, and his teammate Stephen Burns is there too. Amazing to see though that Nils Kaur is all the way down in 11th position. The reigning champion, not going to win the championship this time round. He's too many points away from Jake, unfortunately, now, but he is not inside the top 10 even in practice, so we'll have to see how that works. But we have another special livery to speak of as a bit more of a positive though for tonight, Ed. And the Lunchbox Legends liveries this season have been great from Simon Price, but I think this is one of his greatest hits.
Yeah, I think this was one that we singled out just before we went live, wasn't it? This Baby Bell inspired livery from Simon Price, and it is, like you say, a real treat for the eyes. Just noting though about the different cars we have here tonight. 4 different manufacturers in the top 4. The Mercedes leading the way ahead of the McLaren, which is a bit of a surprise really, because I would have thought the McLaren would have struggled a little bit over the curbs. Guy Edwards really in inspired form after his first race victory of the season last time out in race 1. He's really having some great late season pace.
Absolutely is. And thanks once again to the championship sponsors, Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Bespoke Shelters. We wouldn't be able to do this without you, and we really do appreciate the support and love you very, very much. Here is Ben Chalcraft, a teammate of Ed and I in the Evolution Sim Racing GT4 Sprint Series. He's been having a very consistent season, scoring points all of the time, and we hope that doesn't change because, well, I've been spotty at best. I think my last night reminded me of how annoyed I can get at sim racing and how frustrating it can be, with a 43rd position finish and a DNF, unfortunately. But here we go, qualifying for the penultimate time this season. Anyone you've got your eye on here, Ed? Because it's quite a mixed top 10, and even, to be fair, top 20, isn't it?
Yeah, I definitely think Jake Cranston's going to want to get as high a grid position as possible to give him that best chance of doing exactly what he needs to do here tonight. So he's going to be one to watch, especially in this qualifying session. But then again as well, keep your eyes open for Regenta Sim Racing. They're always the first out of the blocks, and it seems to be the case yet again with Taylor Adams. First out onto the circuit.
He absolutely is, not wasting any time whatsoever. Lovely conditions here as well at the moment here at Montreal. I'm not sure whether this will go into a night race or not, because it seems like the sun is very, very low over there. Oh, Taylor has a spin on his outlap. Very uncharacteristic mistake there by Taylor. Let's check what time of day it is in the sim. Yeah, it's 20 to 6. So by the time tonight is done, it could actually have been, it could end up being a night race this. It wasn't planned as one, but I'm not sure about you, but my sim looks remarkably dark right now, so I'm wondering how much of this is going to be done in daylight.
Yeah, it is looking a little bit late in the evening. We've got that lovely orange glow off of the cars. The lighting engine in iRacing is certainly very nice, where it's been able to adapt itself to the day-night cycle, which wasn't always the case. Back in the day, iRacing didn't have these day-to-night transitions, but they have really been able to fine-tune and perfect it over the iterations, the builds of iRacing as they sort of develop and evolve. At the moment, we're just following Daniel Parron-Smith, who is, I think we mentioned earlier, not been around too often, but it's good to have him back with us for the second to last round of the season. Alright, coming in towards the all-important hairpin, towards the tail end of the lap. It's all about getting that late apex, getting on the power as early as possible to maximise the exit and the run all the way in towards that very technical final chicane.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how dark it's going to get before the end of this, but the headlights should come on these cars at some point pretty soon, because as you can see, even with the added contrast that I've got on the sim here, it's very, very dark indeed. This is actually the latest start time of the season as well. in sim we have the times written down basically. At Watkins Glen we started at 3:30 in the afternoon, but this is the only one that started at 4:30. Other than that, they've all been before 3 o'clock or even 10 or 11 a.m. in the sim. So yeah, here at Montreal, much later start time than all the others, but that might make it even more spicy. No night races this season for the first time in God knows how long. But I think it's for the better, really. The night races aren't always as exciting. They can have a little bit of glitz and glam about them, but they need to be at the right circuit. And sometimes when you do them too often at the same circuit, it feels a little bit overdone. So it's nice to have this sort of low lighting for somewhere like Montreal, where you normally wouldn't expect it.
Yeah, I think this is the first season where we haven't been to Daytona, which I think is our sort of designated night race.
Yeah.
It is good to have a little bit of a breather once, and then we might be back there for next season. We'll be having, I think, conversations in the near future about the plans for upcoming events and things in the Sim Racing Magazine space. But it has been a really interesting season. In terms of the circuits we go to, obviously the first time we've been here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, a track that I think a lot of the drivers will have been hoping we would have done a few seasons ago, but it's good that we've at least better done it now than never. Of course, we have other circuits that we've been to in the winter tour that we've sort of experimented with and maybe returning to as well. I remember Fuji has been one that has, I think, really intrigued a lot of drivers in terms of getting to grips with it. Some of the racing we've seen as well.
Well, that's where we are next week as well.
That is where we are next week, isn't it? Yeah, I was going to say Fuji is a circuit that I think a lot of drivers will look forward to, the season finale. One that's going to give us plenty of action. Similar to this circuit, actually, with that long straight. The characteristics are somewhat the same, although there's a lot more sweeping corners, which should favour something a little bit more like the Aston Martin, maybe the Mercedes as well. At the moment, though, action out on qualifying. We're seeing the first time start to come through, and it's Taylor Adams who tops the pile ahead of Guy Edwards and this man Nils Cole, with his teammate in behind, Ayrton Williams, Satellite Racing Blue, currently occupying that second row of the grid.
Yep, nice and tight at the top though. 15 thousandths of a second between Taylor Adams and Guy Edwards. Top 9 at the moment, separated by just over a second. And then there's a few of them within a tenth of each other. Cranstone, Barnes and Roberts all in there as well. Crimson in the chat, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Let's have a look at some drivers that haven't set times yet. The Walliams racing team of Mark Johnson and his teammate Stephen Codman back out in force once again. This is Mark Johnson, currently no time on the board from him. Chris Jennings just puts a time in. That is good enough for, well, it was 16th place, but 2 other cars have put times in as well. Fastest goes Guy Edwards by just 8 thousandths of a second, so he's barely beaten his own time, but he's done enough to go quickest. They come towards us now. This is Johnson chasing down Toby Ward in the number 66 Porsche. You'd hope that Johnson wasn't held up too much. He goes up into 19th place. Toby Ward goes straight on. Jamie Pounder is back tonight, which is good to see for Prestanda Nomad. He's going well at the minute. Toby Johns goes 5th fastest. Toby absolutely flying up there. Seemingly gone back to the FAF livery on the McLaren and not the blue and white that we'd previously seen. Not quite sure if that's correct or not, but we'll get that confirmed in a little bit. But he comes out of the chicane. Very, very treacherous stuff though there, isn't it, Ed? Because you've got to be really careful with how close you get to those chicanes. The walls on the exit of those chicanes.
Yeah, especially in qualifying, you need to be so careful. In the race, you can get away with it. It doesn't tend to damage the car too much. But in qualifying, even a brush of the wall, 0x contact, will invalidate your lap time. Basically, it's done on iRacing. Sort of, they used it mainly for their oval races to stop drivers sort of wall riding and gaining an advantage just by brushing the walls. But it's again used in the road racing just to see if there's any unnecessary advantage gained. Basically completely invalidates any lap time, so drivers do need to be very careful to avoid the walls at all costs, because obviously we're in the midst of qualifying. Toby Johns, good turn of pace for him, isn't he, up into 5th place. Lewis Ward was expecting the Mercedes to do a little bit better. We did see him actually towards the top end of the practice session. At this moment in time though, not quite able to replicate that into qualifying performance. We've got a little while left though in qualifying, and because this is just the standard 1 hour endurance race, the drivers are able to complete the laps they were on last time out. Because it was a heat race, as soon as the session went to 0, that was it. But the drivers do have a little bit more time, sort of a buffer if you like, once the checker flag falls, to complete the laps that they're on.
Jake Cranstone has done what he needs to do so far and has gone fastest with a 1:41.227. Daniel Parron-Smith has just slotted into 4th place ahead of Kyle Ridley, who's just done a purple final sector. Lewis Ward now beats that. Does he hop up the times? No valid lap from him. Still no valid laps from 2 very fast Mercedes as well. Matthias Tem is yet to put a valid time on the board, and so too is Dan McCauley. So both of these guys hoping to get some valid laps in before this session is over. Whoa, big slide there towards the wall for Dan. He's got his teammate Lewis Ward right behind him. These two very often work together in these sessions. Even though Dan is giving Lewis the slipstream right now and trying to help him out, he's certainly going to be hoping that he can just get a decent lap in of his own. He knows Lewis is a little bit higher up in the championship standings. Actually, he's not, sorry. Dan is ahead of Lewis by 3 points in the championship coming into this. So never mind helping your teammate out. Dan is ahead of 2-time champion Lewis Ward. No Simon Povey here tonight. Unfortunately, Simon not having a very good season at all, and I think he's called this one quits before it plummets further, which is a shame to see, but at the end of the day, he still gave it a go. Dan a little bit wide there at the hairpin. Guy Edwards has to come to a stop to save his lap. Here's John Barnes. 16th place for him at the moment. A bit further down the order, but again, a good couple of manufacturers within the top 10 there, Ed. Only 1 Mercedes in the top 10, but we've got all 5 at least.
Yeah, I mean, they're still going strong, but just having a look at the way this is going, is Callum Brandt actually improving now up into 6th place. Good luck there for the McLarens. Again, the car that I was expecting to do as well as it has been behind the hands of those 2 RD SimSport drivers. Lewis Ward does improve now up into 6th place. Look at how tight it is, though. The top 6 drivers all separate by just 0.2 of a second. Once more, margins fine as ever. But Jake Cranstone, look at his pace that he has there. Currently a 1/10 of a second, which is, I think, the biggest gap between positions we see in pretty much the whole of the grid. That's between 1st and 2nd. And it's 2nd down to 6th, less than a 1/10. Madness.
Incredible. Once again, really close stuff from the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. And don't forget, as Ed rightly pointed out earlier, we have the Winter Tour still to come later on in the year, and then we have special events going into 2025, and then that's when the next season of this championship will be. The Winter Tour this time around will not feature GT4 cars, which is very exciting. We're going to be testing something new, so we're going to have a lot of fun with it, and we look forward to hopefully having you all along with us to at least watch the action, sometimes be a part of the action as well. It'll only be 3 weeks until the Winter Tour actually gets underway, to be honest with you. It's going to be a bit of a spotty calendar because it's going to be a few rounds and then maybe a couple of weeks off, then a few rounds because of other commitments and, of course, Christmas and New Year. And then we'll have some special events pretty much straight after that as well. So,
Chaz, you've said the dreaded C word. It's not even Halloween yet.
I know. I don't.
Oh.
There's already. I was in Aldi yesterday. Other supermarkets exist, but I was in Aldi yesterday, and there was Christmas stuff, and it just made me feel sick. Callum Brandt goes fastest in the McLaren. Brilliant stuff by Callum Brandt. Took the risk over the curbs. I was sticking with Dan McCauley here because he's the only car not to have done a valid time, and he does enough for 8th position. But Callum Brandt, take a bow. 68 thousandths of a second faster than Jake Cranstone, but he takes away a championship point, which is what the rest of the field will want.
Exactly. I mean, that is some lap from Callum Brandt there. 1:41.1. He's been able to maybe find himself in that perfect window with some slipstream coming out of that final sort of, I guess, final hairpin. And now sees himself just he's staring essentially at the times and hope that they aren't going to be coming down too quickly. Jake Cranstone, I think, now is getting started on another flying lap and came in partway through just to essentially refresh the car and is now started up yet again to try and set some quick times. Looking elsewhere in the field, gap between Ayrton Williams and Toby Johns, less than a 1/10 of a second, about what, half a 1/10, isn't it, between two of us. Matt Slight improves up into 12th place.
It's not the sort of place we'd expect to see Matt Slight. As the headlights come on, we've got Don Brennan down in 28th, Tom Stanley down in 29th, Dennis Van Beelen finished second twice at Zandvoort, he's 24th, Ben Idris Abdullahi is now 18th, Don Brennan moves up to 15th place, but there's a number of drivers a lot further down than we would expect them at this point.
Yeah, like you said, Matthias Tem and both of the Dutchmen actually not seemingly getting on as well at the Canadian circuits as they did the Dutch. Nice livery, of course, from the Fury Sim Sport driver. Just not quite got the pace under his belt. Stephen Burns improves a little bit, goes up into 20th place, the final point scoring position for the top of the Pops BMW. Still love the sound of this Mercedes.
Good rumble.
Really wonderful sort of growling sound to it as he makes his way in towards this little corner. A little bit of a snap mid-corner ahead, wasn't it? That's not going to be great. Was that for
Ayrton Williams?
at least one of the ones. Was it Ayrton Williams? Not the greatest for a lap, but should be able to get this one completed. And then the next lap these drivers start will be their final attempt in this qualifying session. Any drivers that are crossing the line now essentially won't be able to do any more in this session.
Got Rob Sharp on screen. Always good to see Rob out there on track. He had a nightmare of a time at Zandvoort. He's not really had a good run at all season in any of these sprint races. I think this is another updated livery, this constant developing livery for Rob. I think now has the Scottish Cross on the back, sort of the rear flanks of it. There's a few more highlights of yellow around the front as well. It's a very busy livery these days, but my God, it looks brilliant. Constantly developing this thing is Rob. We love to see it. Almost sort of mimics constant car development as a team, doesn't it? He's always putting something into making the machine as good as it can be, and it's the same with his watches as well, as Orris watch. But it's great to have Rob with us once again. Jake Cranstone is out there on track, I can see. He's done a purple sector 2 on this lap. So he's certainly he's not mucking about. He really isn't. He wants that pole position back. As Lewis Ward goes third fastest now, ahead of Guy Edwards. So now we have 4 manufacturers in the top 5 still.
Now, will Drake Cranstone be able to get across the line in time for another lap? I don't think he will. This is going to be his last attempt at pole position. He had a purple sector. Really hard over the curves. Is that going to cost him on the exit?
Yeah.
I think he's lifted off. Yari knows that that's not going to be an improvement. So second is going to be what Jake will have to settle for at this moment in time. Lewis Ward did get over the line in time to start another flying lap. So he's going to be a driver that our attention will shift to towards the end of this qualifying session. Ben Trauka, Frel Manabi Simpson just outside the top 10. Needs to find a little bit more. Actually, a few tenths more. Surprising the gap between himself and Ayrton Williams. If you can just find a few more tenths, though. Look at that, really aggressive over the curves. Knows that this is not the time to be dilly-dallying around. Love to see it, but as he makes his way over the line, will it have been enough to get up into the top 10? Doesn't seem to be the case. No, he stays 13th. Chris Jennings in that lovely, sleek, silver Mercedes. Over the line he goes. Was 27th. Seems to stay there for the moment.
Paul Goffin crossed the line as well. And then Nils Kaur. No improvements there by the look of it. Nope. Same for Ayrton Williams as well, I believe. Behind them. Oh, that's Lewis Ward in the wall. Lewis Ward hits the barriers behind them. The wall of champions claims the champion as... Oh, who was that smacking into it? Was that Kyle Ridley? It was indeed. Kyle's always exciting, always good fun. But wow, a little bit too exciting for his own good. As Tom Stanley went full left there.
Yep.
I wasn't sure whether that was hardware failure with how quickly that did that. But no, he comes to a stop.
No.
Goodness me, that was a big old whack into the barrier. Ian Pfeiffer comes into the pits. I will apologise for this now as well, everybody, because the pit lane cameras here are this and this that I've set up. So our pit lane cameras will have to be on boards if anybody comes in, because that is not good. So I do apologise. But that is qualifying done with, and that is a point to Callum Brandt ahead of Jake Cranstone. And that's important for everybody else, because that doesn't make Jake's job any easier in trying to win the championship tonight, but he is only an 18th place finish away from taking Season 5 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. I'm pretty sure as well, Ed, he would be the first driver, other than obviously the very first season where Simon won it, not you, it would be the first season where a driver has won it on his debut.
Yeah, it would be, and it's going to be great to see how Callum is able to go about, how Jake is able to go about tonight. Obviously, being a newcomer, he's probably watched a few of the races before joining up this season, got very familiar with the format right away, and now knows that all he needs to do is just, like I say, finish 18th or better, and he will be champion.
He absolutely will be. Let's have a look at the grid then, shall we, for the penultimate race of the season. Callum Brandt takes pole position in the McLaren alongside Jake Cranstone on the front row. Then we have Lewis Ward and Guy Edwards. They've had some great battles in past seasons. It'd be good to see another one of those here tonight. Taylor Adams will start in 5th place with a job on his hands, with Daniel Parron-Smith alongside, quick as ever. Kyle Ridley next up with Dan McCauley alongside him. Then we have Nils Core and his teammate Ayrton Williams leading the team's championship at the moment. Satellite Racing Blue, they occupy the 5th row of the grid. Toby Johns is 11th with Matt Slight behind him in 12th place. Ben Chalcraft is 13th ahead of John Barnes, with Dominic Brennan and Rob Sharp taking up row 8. Stephen Codman is alongside Ben Idris Abdullahi in 18th position. He is ahead of Ian Pfeiffer and Dennis Van Beelen. Stephen Burns is 21st with Martin Kenyon alongside him. And then we have Jamie Pounder and Matthias Tem. Both of those drivers will be expecting to move forward from those positions. Mark Johnson is 25th ahead of Paul Goffin. Chris Jennings and John Roberts are on the 19th row of the grid. And then we have, 14th row of the grid. Then it's Toby Ward and Tom Stanley completing the top 30. Another one as well, Tom Stanley expecting to go forward. Nomad not having a great qualifying there. And then Heinz Meyer is 31st. And behind him in 32nd position at the back of the grid, we have Simon Price. So the field will be all forming up now, somewhere around the circuit. Whereabouts are they? That looks like the run down to the hairpin to me. Let's just have a check. Yes. It is. There's the iRacing safety car, the Porsche 911. Effectively a GT3 Cup car without the wing. Callum Brandt's going to be watching his mirrors a little bit here, Ed, but I don't think he needs to worry too much because that pace in qualifying was pretty substantial, wasn't it? Not sure if you lot can hear, Ed, but I cannot.
Oh, sorry. There we are. Just need to hope that he can get through the first few corners unscathed. I think that's going to be the main aspect for him in his race. As long as he's able to just focus completely on doing that, he's in with a great chance here tonight. Jake Cranstone, you can just see already raring and going. He's not the driver on pole position. It is Callum Brandt. He just seemed to get a little bit of a eager getaway as the drivers were making their way now in behind the iRacing safety car. And now it's basically soon going to be down completely to Callum Brandt to set the pace and see how this race will go. Already drivers trying to get some heat into the tyres. You can see a lot of weaving around there from Mercedes of Dan McCauley. Lewis Ward, his teammate, just a few positions up ahead. Able to give him advance warning if there is anything untoward going on through these first few corners. But for now, Chaz, we could be seeing a season-winning performance from Jake Cranstone in second place if he's able to get a move on right away.
Looks like Callum Brandt's going to pack the field up on the exit of the final corner here. I don't think some of them want that to happen, but either way, they come to the line, and round number 15 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge gets underway with Callum Brandt leading the way. Daniel Parron-Smith looked like he made it 3 wide in the middle there as they came into turn 1. Let's see how they all get through the first couple of corners because it gets mighty tight in here. We've seen many interesting Grand Prix starts through these few corners. Looks like everyone keeps it together. Matthias Tem still a bit further back in the pack, but he's hoping to keep it tidy as he wants to gain places. Further up the order though, Callum Brandt takes the race lead. Let's watch them through here.
All looking nice and clean enough. Still some side-by-side action as they go through the chicane up towards this sort of little S's section now. Once more side-by-side. Who's that? That's Daniel Parron-Smith getting her through ahead on Guy Edwards. Who's not the greatest start, just dropping back in place. And all was basically a car park forming now, and it's... we were worried that this might happen here at Gilles Villeneuve. With the walls as close as they are, the circuit as narrow as it is, if there's an accident, the cars essentially just get funneled into one big accident.
Looks like both the Prestanda Nomad cars are broken in there. Mark Johnson is stuck against the wall. That Mercedes is going nowhere. It looked like the Prestanda Nomad car of Jamie Pounder went in a little bit hot there and caused a bit more of it. So there's the initial contact. It was Toby Johns and Rob Sharp. Then watch Jamie comes in, hits the back of one, then he gets hit by Mark, and yeah, suddenly the accident goes from the left of the circuit to the right of the circuit. Don Brennan has had a spin on the exit of the hairpin. Not sure if he's had any help there. Nils Kaur has lost a bunch of positions as well. He has dropped down all the way to 22nd place. Not sure if that was as a result of the earlier incident or whether he's had a slowdown penalty or something. Let's have a look. This is Rob Sharp going past Nils Kaur. Ah, yeah, he's had damage. I think he was involved in all of that. As John Roberts was down the inside. And then, yeah, more drama on the inside there. Parron Smith has had a slowdown penalty. He's definitely going slower than you'd normally expect around there. But wow, after one lap, it's still Callum Brandt leading, but look right behind him, Ed. Jake Cranstone in tow, so too is Lewis Ward. And the field has, well, spread out basically as a result of that.
Yeah, it really has done. But it's going to be perfect news for Jake Cranstone this opening few laps. It's all Daniel Parron Smith. He's left the inside. Or he's going for the inside rather. His car already left it wide open.
He's actually, to be fair, Parron
go back for him.
Yeah, as he went round the long right-hander, he actually clipped the wall. I didn't know whether it broke the car or did something. But now he's having a bit of a ding-dong with Kyle Ridley. The two of them scrapping together. He's blinking in and out a little bit there, which isn't going to fill anyone with confidence. But here's the battle for the lead, though, Ed. Jake Cranstone just needs to finish 18th in this race. He doesn't need to win it, but he's certainly going to go for a win, isn't he? It's Jake.
I mean, this is what Jake is going to be thinking about as well, because you're in the best place to avoid any accidents by being out in front with no one around you, and that is going to be, I think, his main aim for this opening phase of the race. See if there is any way past Callum Brandt. If there's any way through, he's going to seize it right away and not let Taylor Adams have any chance of getting into the mix. Taylor got someone to worry about, and that's Ayrton Williams, who was looking up the inside for a moment. Darts back in behind, but what a start to the race for Ayrton, up 4 positions so far as Jake Cranstone. He's gotten up into the lead, Chaz.
Yeah, Callum Brandt, I think, has had a slowdown penalty. So too has Ayrton Williams. Callum Brandt has lost the race lead. So Jake Cranstone leads this race, and that is the position gained by Jake. Callum serves it over on the right-hand side. And then look at that, Lewis Ward wants to take advantage as well over Jake Cranstone, but decides against it into there. He knows that they're better off working together to break 3 of the pack. RD Simsport 3rd and 4th now, but that's not the way around they would have wanted it, with Jake Cranstone at the front of the pack. You said it earlier, Ed, the perfect way to win a championship is to do it with a race victory. He can do it with 1 round left to go very easily tonight, but if he does that by winning as well, that's a real nail in the coffin, isn't it?
It really is, and it's a perfect illustration of just how good Jake has been all season. He's definitely a worthy winner of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge if he's able to secure it here tonight or even at the final round. It doesn't really matter because the performance he's been putting in all season long have been simply sublime. He's got a while to go though. 55 minutes still remain here at the Gilles Villeneuve circuit. Lewis Ward right in behind him is going to make sure he's going to have to sweat for each one. Abdullahi just gets into the back. He was trying to drive through Daniel Parron Smith there.
Yeah, Parron Smith clipped, and then he's decided that's his race done with. I think he had a slowdown penalty a little bit earlier as well. I noticed that Dan McCauley was in the middle of that as well. I think he's dropped a few places because of a slowdown. He's behind Ian Pfeiffer, John Barnes, Ayrton Williams. I think he joined Ayrton in getting a slowdown penalty. But look at these pair at the front. Jake Cranstone with Lewis Ward all over the back of him. Lewis has won 2 championships in this series, and he's saying to Jake, look, if you're going to do it, let me at least guide you through it and show you how to do it. Welcome to the club, he'll say. But nobody with more than 1 championship other than Lewis Ward so far in this series. And on paper, the most successful driver, following easily the most impressive driver this season, to be honest. Can't do too much of that, Jake. That was close.
Yeah, that was very, very scary stuff. The drivers do get a fast repair, so they should be able to serve it later on in the race if they need to, but it's better to have it as a safety net rather than something you work and plan into your race strategy. Jake Cranstone, they're really pushing hard. This is, of course, a 1-hour endurance race with sort of not really mandatory, but it's basically enforced by the fuel limit, which has been increased since the start of the season to essentially make the races one-stops without the need for massive amounts of fuel saving, just allowing the drivers to focus on racing all out, wheel to wheel, door to door, like we're seeing here between Ian Pfeiffer and John Barnes. John with the inside line against Ian. In towards the hairpin they go, but look at the speed that Ian takes into the corner, and with that outside line, able to put the power down nice and early, getting a little bit too eager and kicking the rear out. He's that 777 of John Barnes, who's going to seemingly struggle to fend off now. Very hard charging Mercedes of Dan McCauley, I think, is going to get ahead in towards the chicane. Lewis Ward has actually gotten ahead. Jake Cranstone's got to slow down.
Yeah, Cranstone.
Jake's dropping back behind Guy.
Suffers the same fate, overdoes it at the chicane, slow down penalty is given, and Lewis Ward goes through. That now means that Jake Cranstone is in 3rd place, but still in a championship winning position because Taylor Adams is only in 5th. He needs to score many more points than that, as, I'm told that John Roberts is having a drama a bit further back. He's around at the chicane. To be fair, he's not, I was going to say not hit anything. But if he hadn't have hit anything, that would have been a miracle, to be honest, because it's hard to have an off there and not smash into something. Whoa! Ian Pfeiffer and John Barnes still having this ding-dong. I think that before, Ian was a little bit unfair on John. He moved over to the right-hand side of the circuit and made unnecessary contact, but then I think he was just hard but fair afterwards. Ayrton Williams and Nils Korn not having a brilliant race so far, considering they had a few 1-2 finishes towards the latter end of the season. They are 11th and 18th right now, which is not in the script at all. But what a busy race we've had so far, though, Ed. It's absolute chaos up and down the order in terms of positions gained. I mean, Ian Pfeiffer's gained 10, but look at Matthias Tem. 12 places gained. He's flying.
Yeah, we've noticed all season long that he hasn't necessarily been the strongest in terms of qualifying, but in the races, he just goes at it. And to be fair, it's very nice to measure. Look at the space that is just suddenly afforded to him by Ayrton Williams. He almost was worried that Matthias was going to try and lunge it. Oh, it is, sorry. Is it Mike Johnson? Yes, you're right. Mark just trying, I think, he was thinking about getting out of the way for Matthias, but Matthias was never really going to send a lunge from that far back. He has had a great race so far. Not seen too much of him, but I think he was able to get quite a few of those places just by staying out of trouble. That incident that we saw at the early in the first lap, wasn't it? It was he was able to gain quite a few positions where quite a lot of the field was able to gain. Ian Pfeiffer as well, another driver, is up 10 places. Not having a bad day in the office whatsoever as the Frenchman. Not really what you can call a home race, even though this is in Montreal, the French part of Canada.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Chaz.
I was just going to say that the French-Canadian hoping to maybe mimic a bit of Gilles or even Jacques Villeneuve. Yeah. Then again, no one wants to mimic Jacques Villeneuve. He's an idiot. Still.
Not wrong.
Sorry, that fell out. But yeah, it's good for him to have a sort of home race, potentially. Got Ben Idris Abdullahi in the field as well. Didn't have the qualifying he would have wanted. He's side by side right now with Stephen Codman. He's going to go fishing for a result. Down the inside into the chicane. And Stephen affords him the room. Dennis Van Beelen is the next car on the radar. And let's not forget, Dennis had a great time at his home race back at Zandvoort. Bit of action here in the background as well. Nils Korn and Stephen Burns side by side. Once again, battles up and down the order. Everywhere we look is Codman across the inside of the hairpin. Dennis Van Beelen goes deep as well as a result. But wow, how did that come about?
Let's have a look and see. Is it just the two cars sort of blending into one another? They get stuck. There's a brief little tap, and then the cars sort of get latched together. Stephen Codman pitched into a spin across the nose, and then as soon as he's sideways, the car is just not able to stop whatsoever.
That was scary. Very, very scary. I think a little unfair that on Codman. I think that was definitely not one for him to be blamed for. Oof. Wow, good awareness by Idris Abdullahi there, because he saw that happening behind him. Dennis probably shouted something very very loud as well. But yeah, scary, scary moment that, and a big old shame that for Stephen Codman, who's now down in 23rd place.
Yeah, real shame. His race has seemingly ended in the way that it has, on for a good turn of points, but now Not the case at all. Stephen Burns, top of the pops, top of this little battle, isn't he, with Dennis Van Beelen in behind to try and keep Dennis at bay for as long as possible, while trying as well to stick with Niels Corey, who is likely going to be the faster driver. It's based on qualifying performances, what we've seen of this season, what we know of Niels Corey. He's a good driver to get him behind, sort of use for the slipstream. This moment in time out ahead, Jake Cranstone is attempting to close the gap to Guy Edwards and Lewis Ward, but he has got Callum Brown in behind him as well. The RD Simsport McLarens sort of forming the bread of a Jake Cranstone sandwich.
Absolutely. Jake tastes like victory, I think. He's got a lot of wins and a lot of trophies and all sorts. He's won many a championship. Thank you to all of you that are tuned in so far. Hope you're enjoying the show. Thanks as always to our championship sponsors, Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Bespoke Shelters, and everybody that's involved in this fantastic community here in the Sim Racing Magazine community. Here's Toby versus Toby. Seen this a few times this season. Toby Johns overtaking Toby Ward. Toby Johns is down 9 places in this race. Toby Ward is now up 8. 2 of them go side by side into turn 1. McLaren versus Porsche. McLaren on the inside, Porsche on the outside, becomes the inside. Narrow little Porsche when you look at them like this. Very close together, and Toby Ward manages to hold on to it for now. That's the last point scoring place as well that Toby Ward is currently occupying, and he's still got it in 20th position, and I think Toby Johns loses a little bit of momentum there, so Ward can sprint away. The other Ward is hoping to sprint away, but isn't doing so actually. The gap was over a second earlier, but Guy Edwards is just on the fastest first sector of the race. And I tell you, Guy is moving here, isn't he, Ed? He got a great win last time out at Zandvoort. He's been absolutely inspired since.
Yeah, Lewis is going to have to pick up the pace if he's to ward off Guy Edwards, who's chasing him down, getting into the phase of the race, where we do often see drivers sort of settle into a bit of a rhythm. Other times, drivers like Guy Edwards do turn the pace up a little bit to pile that pressure on, maybe just in preparation for a battle before the pit stops, because that's another time, isn't it, Chaz, where we see a lot of action just before the round of pit stops, where drivers are fighting for that track position coming into the pit lane. As we switch back to Dominic Brennan, got Paul Goffin for company, and yeah, Guy Edwards really turning up the pace now with the fastest lap of the race, faster than Lewis Ward by quite some distance as well, actually, nearly 0.4 of a second quicker.
Yeah, really on the move now is Guy Edwards. He's going to be going for that race lead before we know it. Let's not forget as well, the fuel limit earlier this season was decreased to just over 30%, so that the cars now have to do 2 pit stops in these races, as opposed to being able to always get away with 1. It's more likely that they'll do 2 stops. Some of the tracks actually nearly forced them to do 3 stops, which wasn't the aim, but it is what it is. There are more circuits where it's easier to save fuel than others, and we will have to see how they manage this one. We look here at Ayrton Williams, one of the only cars that is currently in the position he started this race in 10th place. John Barnes' McLaren in front of him, Dan McCauley's Mercedes just behind. And to be honest, Ed, my eyes have only just adjusted to how quickly it's going dark here at Montreal. It's really come down, hasn't it, the darkness?
It's crept in very soon, yeah. It's something that the drivers, I don't know if they were expecting coming into the racing here tonight, and I certainly know you and I, Chaz, weren't anticipating it being as dark as it would be for the end of the race. We will definitely have a finish under floodlights, potentially some fireworks, even though we can't really program that into iRacing, but some maybe celebratory fireworks for the championship decided here at night, with Jake Cranstone currently doing all he needs to do to secure the championship. And Williams just, again, I think backing out of that one, realising that it wasn't smart to fight side by side. As, oh, who's that having a spin around? That's Matthias.
Matthias Tem, biggest mover in the field before now, has to recover on the infield. Tries to spin it around. Oh, that's not going to work. He's now going to have to do a 3-point turn. That's responsible of him, though, to be fair, because, you know, he could have just got on the throttle and tried to turn it around on the circuit there. But instead of worrying everybody, he took time out of his own race to go and do that. That now means that Ian Pfeiffer is the biggest mover in the field. Car 11 has gained 11, and he's up into 8th place at the minute. Great drive by Ian Pfeiffer. He's doing very well in this one. and he'll be over the moon. He's actually ahead of his satellite racing stablemates as well in the 2 Aston Martins. Ayrton Williams is 11th, Nils Kaur is 13th, and Ian Pfeiffer is on the move.
Yeah, I mean, that mistake we just saw from Matthias is exactly why you cannot rest here at this track at Montreal, because any mistakes get punished, and they get punished hard. Matthias was fighting up potentially for a top 10. He was really chasing down the likes of Williams, Dan McCauley, but then that one little mistake has seen him drop 10 places all the way down now into 22nd place. So even though things might look rosy for Jake Cranstone at the moment, all it'll take is for him to have one little mistake, one little half spin, and eventually even a meeting with the barriers, and he can see himself dropping out of not just the podium, but also potentially the points that he needs to score to seal the championship here tonight. Of course, he would still seal it even if he didn't score points, because at the moment his main championship rival, Taylor Adams, is not doing everything he needs to do. Taylor really needs to get a race victory if the season is to sort of stay alive, the championship fight is to continue on to the final race meeting at Fuji. But for now, things are looking good for Jake.
They are indeed. Doesn't need to do a massive amount from here, as we have Dan McCauley side by side with John Barnes. Down the inside he goes in the Mercedes. Decisive stuff, puts the car where he needs to. Now Ayrton Williams wants a piece of this as well. Lovely shot there with the clouds and the sunset over in the distance. Certainly a great looking circuit at night, this, because it's got that sort of street circuit vibe to it. You get more of an idea of it, don't you, actually, when you race here at night. It's quite interesting to see. But the drivers now have to be even more wary of their surroundings and any potential barrier contact that they might have. Still 42 minutes left to go here in round 15 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Lewis Ward now has a much more considerable lead, and that is 1.4 seconds, nearly 1.5 seconds now, over Guy Edwards and Jake Cranstone. Callum Brandt in 4th position, started on pole as Guy kisses the barrier a little bit there actually in the McLaren. He won't be too pleased with that one. He might have lost a little bit of ground there, and Jake Cranstone could certainly capitalise. The Porsche is looking sprightly, or it is when it's there, in a straight line in the slipstream, but no, Jake backs out. You see him just keep the car in the middle of the road. He's sort of just saying to Guy, look, I'm not going for a move here. Surely pit stops aren't too far away now, though, Ed. We should see people making their first arrivals down pit road.
We should do. We know that Montreal isn't necessarily a circuit that uses a lot of fuel. Why there is that long sort of back straight and then the start-finish line as well, as if on cue, Chaz. As if you know what you're talking about. Who'd have thought it, eh?
I don't.
First driver coming into the pits, Ian Pfeiffer.
They use a lot of the garages here as a long way down. As I think he overdid it slightly. There's a lot of the pit blocks are really far down here. I don't know if you can quite see it. The nearest lights to us in the pit lane there is actually where the pace car is, and the final pit box is about that far down. We've got a few other drivers in the pits as well, though. A couple of others making their way down. Dominic Brennan, Toby Ward, Heinz Mayer, John Roberts also coming into the pits. There's Don Brennan. And now leaving the pit lane, Ian Pfeiffer. It's close still between Guy Edwards and Jake Cranstone. Jake still 3rd. Gap now to the lead is nearly 1.9 seconds. That's exactly what Lewis Ward wants, but you've got to think, are any of these guys going to be capitalising on fuel? Looks like Guy Edwards is hanging back a little bit here. Not quite sure if that's down to a slowdown or whether he's trying to help his teammate Callum Brandt, but he gives that position up quite easily there, does Guy. Callum now sat in a good position. Can he make this McLaren go one lap longer with a bit of slipstream off his mate? Not sure.
So look, Jake Cranstone has now been released though, thanks to Guy Edwards, maybe serving a slowdown, maybe just deciding to play a bit more of a team game, get right up close to Callum Brandt, as all of them now seemingly diving into the pits. Even our race leader Lewis Ward coming in as well. We expect to see the same from Taylor Adams, Kyle Ridley, the whole chasing back. But actually Taylor Adams, he's been able to save a bit of fuel and carries on, inherits the lead of the race.
He absolutely does. He continues on. Let's see what he can do with this extra lap, because we've seen Taylor pull off a fantastic strategy before. Not going to lie, Ed and I did say if anyone was going to try and win an endurance race when they really need to, it's going to be Taylor Adams in this BMW. Everybody else into the pits. So he's managed to save a lap up to this point. 38 minutes left on the clock, and change actually, it's more 39 minutes, as Jake Cranstone has come out of the pits ahead of Lewis Ward. That's an important shift in the play as well. Those two have got a decent gap over everyone else, but Cranstone, despite the pace that he's had in that first stint, has still come out ahead. That's remarkable.
Yeah, it's an impressive pace by Jake Cranstone. We know he tends to maximise the speed on the way into the pits and also seemingly on the way out. I don't know if maybe Lewis overshot his bikes, had to back up slightly, which was what cost him some time, because, like you rightly said, Chaz, Lewis did have a bit of an advantage. Was it nearly 2 seconds, I think, between himself and Jake Cranstone as they came into the pit lane.
Yeah, those guys have got a bit of a gap now over the two RD SimSport McLarens, so they won't feel too under pressure. Here's Taylor Adams. Those headlights are Taylor Adams, I can guarantee you. Coming into the pit lane now. Interesting pit entry here. It's really difficult to judge sometimes. You come into it at a very high speed as well. Crawls his way down the pit lane to his box. There's Jake Cranstone, Lewis Ward, Guy Edwards and Callum Brandt all make their way towards this part of the circuit. They are at the moment the only 3 cars that are where they started, actually. 2nd, 3rd and 4th, because they were all behind Callum Brandt earlier on. Here comes Cranstone now. He's actually opened up a little bit of a gap over Lewis Ward at the sort of later section of the lap. That looked a bit feisty over the curb though for Jake. I'll have to keep our eye out for when people get slowdown penalties here, to be honest with you. Taylor Adams is still in the pit lane further down there. He's not moving yet. Jake Cranstone and the company with him have gone through. Lewis Ward is all over the back of him though, isn't he? He's not mucking about here in this Mercedes. Really filling those mirrors of that Porsche.
Yeah, something to remember as well, though, that while Lewis was really putting the pressure on Jake Cranstone, he didn't make the move on track. It was mainly down to a mistake from Jake. That pressure applied from Lewis was what really, I think, made the difference in that earlier stage of the race. We'll see it yet again if Lewis Ward's strategy of just getting close to the rear end of Porsche Cayman, rather than maybe attempting a proper on-track overtake, would be enough to see him get back up into the lead of the race. But as it stands, both Jake and Lewis have got quite a nice lead, don't they? 2 Guy Edwards in behind, nearly 3 seconds. Very comfortable stuff for the pair that are currently off and away class of the field here tonight.
Yeah, they're definitely doing a good job. A little bit further down, we've got Ben Idris Abdullahi for Chicane Online Racing. He's got Nils Kaur behind him, about half a second, the reigning champion. Not having a night to remember so far is Nils. He's had a bit of a topsy-turvy season as well. He had 2 fantastic lights to flag victories at Zolder and Catalunya, which were definitely the highlights of his campaign so far. And they were back-to-back 1-2 finishes as well with his teammate in behind him. But right now, this is not going the way he would have wanted. He had some form of drama early on. I think he just got a slowdown penalty or something. It seemed like, actually, I remember now, he had damage, didn't he? So maybe he got caught up in a little bit of the check-up at the start of the race and suffered as a result. Martin Kenyon has had a problem, I'm afraid. He's just caught it on the curb in the McLaren. Comes to a stop. Great avoidance by the cars behind. Really good avoidance by the cars behind. That was Heinz Mayer going past him. Let's have a look at that from on board with Heinz. You can see the McLaren goes around. Really quick thinking there by Heinz. Fair play. That is not easy to make that work time and time again, but yeah, he's done it the one time it mattered. Good stuff.
Yeah, really, really good stuff there from Heinz, able to keep it under control. And while Jake is leading the race, it doesn't necessarily at the most controlled, because he has Lewis Ward really piling that pressure on, breathing down his neck every single corner. Jake is going to be looking in his mirrors for the headlights. Where are they? Is he looking up the inside? Is he going to be trying to move, maybe set me up, causing me to make a mistake? You can't think about that though. We just need to focus 100% on the track ahead and the task at hand, and that is to win the race and become champion. As a result, obviously, needs to finish just 18th place to guarantee mathematical championship. But we know, just as much as anyone else does, that it's always better when you win a race as a champion, isn't it?
Definitely is, and I think if he takes that race victory, it will be his 4th of the season, and it will be the 9th time he's been on the podium in Season 5. He had an amazing run of 5 podium finishes, even though that was a mixture of endurance and sprint races. He's got currently a Mercedes in the boot of that Porsche. The engine is quite far back in these things, as we all know, but that Mercedes, I think, had its engine in front of the Porsche engine for a moment there. Very, very close from Lewis Ward, but I think that body language says a lot by Lewis. I think that tells him, look, I'm not going to go for a manoeuvre here. I could go for an overtake, but he's making a point of sitting right behind him and not trying to overtake him in a straight line.
Yeah, the two of them could also be maybe working together, building a gap to Callum Brown in behind. There was those two RD Simsport drivers getting some good championship points as well, because let's not just forget, we've been talking a lot about the sort of the teams champion, or the drivers championship, sorry, but there is still a teams championship to think about. RD Simsport, I think, found themselves in 5th place, but as it stands, they look quite comfortably able to outscore Prestanda Nomad and get up at least one more position to 4th after tonight, as long as it stays where it is. Into this one as well, it was Satellite Racing Blue that were leading, but Regenta and Apex weren't miles away.
No.
And Satellite still not really scoring the most points, is it? Where's Nils Corey's down in 13th, Ayrton Williams in 8th. Not the perfect night for them, really.
No, absolutely not, and it's a real shame about the Prestanda Nomad team as well. Obviously, they are both out of this race after that first lap incident where they both got caught up in it. It's a big, big shame. But it's one of those things. It happens. Sometimes you have nights and it really works and it comes together. Other times you don't. We've got still a battle going on for the lead though. But look, again, Jake Cranstone has Lewis Ward tucked right up behind him. Lewis backs out early, knows what the score is. I think they are definitely trying to work together a little bit here to just break away from the RD Simsport McLarens, who are flying beautifully in formation right now. Team boss Rob Sutherland is in the chat as well. Good to see you, Rob. Hope all is well. They've got Taylor Adams waiting in the wings, but again, I think he's another one here, Ed, that with the idea of fuel saving, I think Taylor's probably just going to be content to have a car to slipstream from for the remainder.
Yeah, and it's about, obviously, focusing on the slipstream, saving a bit of fuel. Taylor Adams, he's in the spot where he's just, I think, knows at this stage he's just a little bit too far back to really get that race victory unless something happens drastically. Maybe in the final 20 minutes after that round of pit stops to close out the evening. Saving fuel is obviously going to help him have that shorter pit stop, so it could also potentially play in his favour. But in terms of on-track pace, he just hasn't quite been there. It's had great pace, don't get me wrong. He's been well enough up there potentially for a podium, but to get those extra few tenths that Jake Cranstone and Lewis Ward just seem to have at the moment in time, it's just a little bit outside of their grasp.
Yeah,
now though, we've got Nils Core, who's trying to reel in Dan McCauley and John Barnes into his grasp, just up ahead as well. Matt Slight and Etten Williams all battling away. Lovely shot of Nils Core at this moment. Just good perspective, isn't it, of the lines that they take in towards that hairpin to maximise the speed out and down this back straight.
Yeah, it's interesting how many different lines there seems to be actually through that hairpin. A lot of people take a really late apex to get the run. A lot of people stick it right to the inside to try and defend. And look how much Nils closes up on the brakes there. A bit of an accordion effect from the cars in front as they all get closer and closer together. A little bit hot on the exit. Looks like Dan McCauley's got a run here on John Barnes. Are we going to see a repeat of the move that he pulled off earlier where he went down the inside of turn 1? No. Backs out of it this time round. Matt Slight does his fastest lap of the race just in front of these guys, which is strange considering he's getting caught by them still. Shows that Matt maybe not on the pace that he would have wanted to be for this evening. Well, I do like that shot from the chopper actually when it's a race at night, because you get to see just how far the headlights actually do span off into the distance. The cars make their way out of the chicane, rattle their way through this funnel part of the section, part of the circuit I should say, then hard onto the brakes. Very tricky section that there in a GT4 car, isn't it, Ed? Because it really wants to move around on you. It's easy to over-rotate anything rear-wheel drive through there.
We saw a lot of drivers doing exactly that in qualifying, actually, didn't we? A lot of over-rotation through that particular point. Actually, it was Taylor Adams that did it right at the very start, wasn't it, of qualifying through those corners with the over-rotation. And when you get to this stage of a race, around about halfway through, you know that you've at least gotten through the worst of it, where the cars were all close together. Oh, speaking of overrotation, was there maybe a slight tap from behind John Barnes there? It looked close, just as John Barnes was getting on the corner exit at a massive rear end moment. I don't know if there was contact or not.
There was a tap on the exit, but I'm not sure if it was contact that caused it. I'll try and get quickly enough to this. I don't think it was. No, I think it was just the contact on the exit there as a result of it that caused the two of them to get together, just as John lost the rear end slightly as he was recuperating. The battle's still going on, actually. I think John's had a slowdown penalty. And there's also been a change ahead. Ayrton Williams has been overtaken now by Matt Slight. So all of a sudden, Nils Kaur is now going to go past his teammate as well. Ayrton must have had the mother of all slowdowns, because he has lost a bucket load of time in about 5 positions. Wow. I did quickly flick back to the front because Jake Cranstone and Lewis Ward are now being reeled in by Callum Brandt. Callum was on pole position at the start of this, so we know that in terms of 1 lap pace, Callum's the quickest guy out there from earlier anyway. And he's certainly flying now, absolutely on a mission. Can he keep that up and catch the leaders?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to help out Taylor Adams as well, because Guy Edwards is getting some slipstream. So will Taylor Adams, and soon we could have, imagine this, a 5-way fight for the lead, both with Jake Cranstone and Taylor Adams, championship rivals, in the picture. As Dominic Brennan seemingly calls it a night.
Yeah, strange that. I'm not quite sure what caused that for Dom. We may get an explanation in Discord at some point, but obviously hope all is well. Toby Ward here ahead of Stephen Codman, Matthias Tem and Ben Chalcraft, all drivers that we've seen much higher up the order in the past, actually. So these guys not having a night to remember, but they're fighting over the final point scoring positions. Toby Ward is currently in 19th. He's actually gained 10 places to be there as well after a poor qualifying performance. So Toby will be watching his mirrors here to see whether any headlights are suddenly flying up the inside. Codman was involved in an incident earlier. We also had, let's not forget actually, Tem had his spin at the chicane, and Ben Chalcraft was involved in that massive shunt on lap 1 further down the order. And looked like someone hit the wall there.
Looked like just sparks, wasn't it, coming off of the circuit? I don't know if it was maybe a little bit of desync from the sim, a slight blink out that maybe caused some sparks when the car reappeared. I'm just having a look as well at the pace up front. Callum Brandt with the fastest lap of the race so far, 1 minute 41.24. That's essentially qualifying pace that we're seeing now.
That's vile.
Obviously Matthias nearly getting into the back there to take evasive action, right into the left to avoid the rear end of Stephen Codman. That was nearly a big accident, thankfully. No harm done. Yeah, Callum Brandt really turning up the pace now. He's had some disgusting pace that he's able to pull out at this stage of the race. About 5 or 10 minutes time we expect drivers to make their second and last pit stops. It seems like it's going to be Jake Cranstone leading the way into the pits ahead of Lewis Ward and Callum Brandt, unless we see any more slowdowns or a bit of argy-bargy out ahead. As look at how close now Lewis Ward is. We could be getting that right the way now in towards turn 1. He's going to have the outside line for the kink, but then darting to the inside. Lewis Ward is going to have his nose up the inside. You can see the space being afforded to him by Jake Cranstone. Good racing by the pair of them, and now Lewis is going to get a really nice exit, but once more finds himself on the outside. Jake can really try and take some pace in towards this right-hander and secure that lead, but he doesn't. And look at that sweep, and all the way around the outside, Lewis Ward, and right there to pick up the pieces, Callum Brandt snatches that position as well from Jake. So Jake sees himself drop back from the lead into third place in just a matter of corners. But that was some lovely driving by Lewis. Kept his car alongside, the two of them giving each other just enough room, enough space. This was it now. Lewis, look at him darting up the inside. The space afforded to him only just by Jake Cranstone. And then look at this on the exit. Lewis with a nice run, able to keep himself there in the picture. Look at how much confidence he has as well around the outside, just to carry that momentum through.
That was brilliant by Lewis Ward. Really fair fighting as well, that by Jake Cranstone. did really well there. Good bit of self-preservation to not hit the wall either and not squeeze too much. He keeps himself in third position and keeps himself in the championship winning position. That also brings with him Guy Edwards and Taylor Adams into the fight as well. Kyle Ridley going well in 6th place. You can just see him in the background there. He's ahead of Ian Pfeiffer, but Kyle very much in a bit of no man's land at the moment. A lonely race for him, but still, it's going to be big points if it finishes this way. But that was great by Lewis Ward, exactly what he needed to do, as they all head into the final couple of corners now, bouncing their way over the chicane.
Ooh.
Oh, I think Lewis hit the wall a little bit there, maybe just a glance. Great fighting though, really great fighting. It's now completely pitch black here at Montreal. This is not a circuit you want to race around in the dark, so I apologise to all the drivers for that, but it certainly keeps it exciting for us lot. Up here, Ben Idris Abdullahi now behind John Barnes. Bit of a check-up on the way into the chicane, everybody playing it safe. Maybe even a bit of fuel saving going on. Looks like Idris Abdullahi's got the run. Does he? No, not quite. He's just going to stay to the left-hand side of John. He might actually go for it down the inside here into turn 1, and he does. Later on the brakes, says thanks very much. The McLaren lets him have the position, doesn't fight it too hard, because at the end of the day, you don't want to lose that group in front, which is made up of Ayrton Williams, Matt Slight, Niles Core, and Dan McCauley has actually got ahead of all of this lot. I'm pretty sure he was behind them all earlier, was he not?
I think so. A little bit of a kiss of the Barry on the way out. Dan really chucking the car through the corners, putting it through its paces. But speaking of the group, well, there's the group that leads the way, and it is still Lewis Ward, Callum Brandt, Jake Cranstone, and Guy Edwards and Taylor Adams are right up there now in the picture as well.
Great stuff.
Chaz, this has been one heck of a race already, and there's still 22 minutes to go.
Yeah, absolutely. The second round of pit stops should be starting pretty soon as well. That'll give us an idea of who's managed to save fuel with all of this battling in the midpoint of the race, but it is mighty dark out there. It's not a floodlit circuit. It is mighty dark. I'm sure that when a lot of the drivers will reload their replays later on, it'll feel like they've been flashbanged as it suddenly becomes daylight again. But these lot into the final chicane, you can sense quite easily and quite quickly from here from Taylor Adams. He's in no rush, and I believe saving fuel for this final stint. I don't think he'll one-stop this, but I mean, he did it with, what, it was 38 minutes left on the clock, so it's going to be a 2-stop, but I think he's going to save an awful lot of time in the second pit stop. Ian Pfeiffer back into the pits. He was the first car in earlier, and he's repeating the same feat again here.
Yep, Ian, he's also just ahead of that 20-minute mark, so he might need to do a little bit of fuel saving in this final stint to make it to the end of the race. Like you were rightly saying, Taylor Adams could find himself in the perfect position if he's able to save another lap of fuel. That's really going to help him have that shorter stop and maybe leapfrog a few places. Matthias Tem, oh, having to... I'm not sure if he just broke a little bit too late, got into the ABS, had to take evasive action. Going to get himself a slowdown, but it was great sort of thinking from Matthias and great awareness from all the other drivers just to see it coming. So Matthias brakes actually fairly late, and then the ABS doesn't help him out at all.
Was he thinking to go in the pits, do you reckon?
May have been, actually.
Because I know that with how narrow the pit window can be in this championship, a lot of drivers will expect the other drivers around them to go in on the same lap. So I think he might have been expecting the whole train to just carry on in the pit lane, and when it didn't, it was a whoa moment. Easily done.
Definitely, it's something that maybe he wasn't necessarily anticipating himself coming to bits, but probably maybe the car ahead, and when that wasn't the case, yeah, it did sort of throw his strategy up into the air a bit. Guy Edwards now, nice little run here as Jake Cranstone start to lose a little bit of pace now. It's Callum Brandt and Lewis Ward breaking away out ahead. You can see the gap to the cars ahead. Jake Cranstone just doesn't seem to have the pace at this phase of the race.
Mark Johnson's had a spin. He's just rejoining the circuit there in front of this lot. Manages to stay out of the way. He had a bit of a drama down there at turn 1. A bit further down the order, we've got a drop in positions here for Ben Idris Abdullahi. He's the latest one to have a slowdown penalty at the final chicane. He's got John Barnes, I think that is going around the outside. It absolutely is. John goes through. Who's the biggest mover in the field? Toby Ward at the moment with 11 places gained. It will be Ian Pfeiffer by the time the pit stops have all cycled through. But here is Toby into the pits now for his second stop of the night. 19.5 minutes left on the clock, so we know that the drivers will make it right to the end of the race if they pit any time from now. We'll just have to wait and see who the next pit stopper is going to be. I'm not sure if Lewis Ward's going to come in this lap or the next one, because it's not very busy in the pit lane right now, Ed. Matthias Tem, John Roberts and Toby Ward.
Yep. The drivers definitely starting to make their pit stops now, as we'll expect the same potentially from the leaders. Lewis Ward, Callum Brandt, Jake Cranstoun, Guy Edwards probably going to make their pit stops, but Taylor Adams could continue on. That's going to be, I think, a real key factor of this late stage of the race up ahead. We'll look now. Is Lewis Ward going to go for the corner? No, he isn't. The whole pack up ahead doesn't. Taylor Adams carries on.
Yeah, important stuff that by Taylor. I think we saw it coming, but he's done a good job of it. And in the background there, that's not Kyle Ridley. Kyle is now going into the pits. Nils Kaur is the next car down the line. We'll see how he does. Yep, he heads into the pits. Dan McCauley right behind him as well. But Taylor Adams continues on. That floating pair of headlights there is Taylor Adams in the BMW. It is absolute pitch black darkness here at Montreal right now. Look at that. Cannot see a thing. It's a really cool shot that though as he heads up the hill. Love that. Really cool stuff. Matt Slight and Ayrton Williams have carried on though. That's interesting. Ayrton Williams has managed to make the Aston Martin work in this stint. But it is both the Regenta Sim Racing BMWs. Callum Brandt is out ahead of Jake Cranstoun. So Callum's certainly made it work as well. He's flashing the headlights. I think he's got a bit of traffic in front of him. That is Simon Price in the Baby Bell car. He's going to try and peel the wax off this one and move him out of the way as Callum. I think Simon will try and move over through here, maybe. Yes, he moves over to the left-hand side. Callum Brandt goes through. Maintains his lead of the race. And let's not forget, Callum had a pole position and a race win earlier on this season, but it feels like a while since we've seen him win. As Ayrton Williams has got past Matt Slight while they're on their in-lap. That seems very strange indeed.
That seems interesting to say the least, but certainly beneficial for Ayrton Williams to say the least, as Matt Slight maybe having to save a lot more fuel than he was anticipating, which is why he's basically given up that position maybe.
Yeah, I think is he close on fuel here, Matt Slight. These guys will be cutting it fine.
Is he continuing on? He is continuing on for another lap.
Wow, I did not expect to see that. Another lap.
Noticed, yeah. I just noticed because he wasn't in the pits at all, and I just thought for a moment he can't surely be carrying on, but apparently he is. He's going to save boatloads of time in the pits now. 2 laps he'll be able to essentially forgo taking in terms of the fuel. That could see himself leapfrog the likes of Callum Brandt and Jake Cranstoun.
That's remarkable stuff. Absolutely remarkable by Taylor Adams. It's incredible that he can make it work. It's definitely not a one-stopper, we know that much, but yeah, he's really shortened the 2-stop. He's not shortened the track limits. He's absolutely right up to the wall. Not hanging back whatsoever is Taylor Adams. Really winding it on now, you could say. It's a bit hard to follow at night. We've still got 16 minutes left, but Jake Cranstoun is in second place theoretically. Callum Brandt leads the way. Guy Edwards is next up. Then Lewis Ward, Kyle Ridley, then Ian Pfeiffer. 12 places gained for Ian Pfeiffer. Nils Kaur is ahead of Dan McCauley. Then Ayrton Williams. Matt Slight is back out of the pits, but in 11th position. He was amongst all this lot earlier, though, so he's not really lost a massive amount of ground. Let's not forget, when his teammate came into the pits, he and Ayrton Williams, who is just ahead of him on track, were 24 seconds behind Taylor, and he's about half a minute ahead of Callum Brandt right now. It'll class to be more than that by the time he's pitted. Here we go. Into the pit lane. We'll stick with Taylor Adams and we'll see this whole process. So just for reference, Callum Brandt's pit stop was 19.8 seconds. Jake Cranstoun's was 20.5. So we'll see how long Taylor is stationary here. How many seconds has he saved? What do you reckon, Ed? 3 or 4?
Could easily be that. I'd maybe edge close to 3. We'll have a look at what his in-laps been like. The pace as well. If Callum Brandt and Jake Cranstoun have been battling, that's going to help him out even more. Callum Brandt makes his way now up to the line. Taylor Adams has gotten rolling already, and he's quite close to the exit. Doesn't need to worry about the run through turn 1. So while Callum Brandt might appear ahead, Taylor Adams, with the line he's taking, should easily see himself out ahead, and he does. That's a really, really good bit of strategy for Taylor Adams. And now, just needs to manage this race until the end. He's got 14 minutes between himself and a race victory, and then it's going to be basically him doing all he can to drag the championship out for another race. But with Jake Cranstone where he is, Jake will still remain champion with a podium finish here tonight.
Yeah, he's in the perfect place for it. So Jake just needs to keep it calm for these next 14 minutes. He could easily let Guy Edwards and Lewis Ward go and finish in 5th place. He could let a good 5 or 6 cars go. He could drop about half a minute and still be okay. As long as he keeps it on the black stuff, doesn't have an accident, he should be absolutely fine. We ride on board here with Lewis Ward, though, one of the many drivers that's led this race at different points. The top 5, I think, have all led it at some point. Kyle Ridley in 6th position. He's 12 seconds behind these guys, but I tell you, he's having a really, really solid race. Started 7th, he's gained 1 position. Ian Pfeiffer has gained 12 places to be where he is now. Toby Ward as well deserves a shout out. He started 29th on the grid and right near the back, but he has gained 10 spots and moved into the points. Ben Chalcraft as well, proving that you do not give up, because Ben had a massive accident on lap 1, and you know what, he's fought back, he's continued on, and he is in 20th place, a point scoring position. So hats off to Ben. We've seen fantastic point scoring consistency from him in the championship that he, Ed and I are racing in together as teammates, but yeah, here even more so. Taylor Adams, he's under pressure from Callum Brandt. Callum's not leaving him alone here, is he, Ed? This isn't an easy run to the line for Taylor.
No, it isn't, and 12 minutes with Callum Brandt chasing you down are going to be 12 very long minutes. But for now, it is still Taylor leads the way, but Callum's pace all sort of evening long has been electric, even behind the wheel of the McLaren that May would have expected to not do so well. It doesn't like the curves, but seemingly here at Montreal, maybe it's a bit of a combination that comes out on top just because the way this car changes direction with all the chicanes, it sort of balances out. Taylor Adams needs to focus on hitting his marks, can't afford any mistakes whatsoever, because you know Callum Brandt will be right there to pick up the pieces, as he did against Jake Cranstow when it was the battle for the lead. Callum was right there to snatch away that 2nd place. For now, look at how close he is coming out onto the back straight. Nearly nose to tail they go in towards the chicane.
Yeah, I tell you what, I think Taylor might still be saving a little bit of fuel here and there, because he was definitely a lot slower and there was a big old lift on the way into the chicane. He definitely wasn't at flat chat for a moment, and I'm unsure whether he's going to have Callum Brandt trying to make a move here if he doesn't take care. I'm not sure quite what the story is. That's one of the best bits about all this, though. We never really know what the full story is behind what a driver is doing. A quick shout out to our championship sponsors, Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Bespoke Shelters. Thanks also to all of you viewers who are watching along on YouTube as well. Hope you're all enjoying the show. Hope you're enjoying the night race here. The only night race of the season. Almost an unplanned night race, because it is only, well, look at it. It's not even 7 o'clock in the sim at the moment. But still, it is mighty, mighty dark here in Canada. Oh, Lewis Ward was close to overdoing it there on the curb and then the wall. But I do like this circuit at night. You know, it's very tantalising, isn't it? You're always close to a wall, a curb or something. And it's, yeah, it makes it feel about half as wide, doesn't it?
Yeah, the walls do jump out at you at night, even on most circuits, but especially on circuits such as Gilles Villeneuve, where the walls are as close as they are, like you mentioned, even during the daytime. Now, though, the final 10 minutes for Taylor Adams and Jake Cranstone, the 2 championship protagonists that have been giving us a real treat all season long. Looks like, well, Taylor's fighting valiantly. Oh, he has a bit of a moment. And Jake Cranstone, he's going to take advantage. And now, look at this. It's going to be Adams and Cranstone, as it has been all season long, racing for the lead.
Well, I think Callum Brandt got a little bit too close to Taylor Adams there, and Taylor's all the way over to the inside line. I think he's given a bit of slipstream to Brandt to say, go on then, dare you. Why don't you two fight? Guy Edwards and Lewis Ward in this as well. All 5 of them for the lead. This is mighty close and mighty spicy. This could go wrong very quickly. Let's hope it doesn't. We'll come back to that incident in a moment and keep an eye on what happens here. But wow, that was a very, very scary pinch point there. Great opportunism by Jake Cranstone. Didn't quite make it work with the slipstream given to Callum Brandt. Let's quickly have a look at it then. Oh, I do apologise. That's Matt Slight getting past Ben Idris Abdullahi. Yes, there was contact, but I'm not sure how far back we'd have to go to see that contact. I think maybe Adam's just a little bit slow on the apex. And yeah, you can hear it there even as well. It's still like he's saving fuel, and it's sort of catching the guys out behind him. He needs to be really careful here because there could be an incident as a result of this.
Yeah, he's gambled on maybe having a car to slipstream off of towards the end of the race and maybe saving some fuel, but now he's found himself out ahead. The calculations have been thrown off due to the clear air he suddenly sees himself in. Look at this, isn't it? 5 of some of the very best drivers we've seen all season long, entertaining us right from the word go, now battling it out to round out at least the championship fight. Still one more race to go after all of this though. But Lewis Ward right at the tail end in the best seat of the house to watch the action unfold.
He absolutely is. We've got a battle further back as well. Matt Slight and Ben Idris Abdullahi in these two BMWs. Well, it's been put to bed now as Matt Slight gets the slowdown penalty. Idris Abdullahi does a good job and gets through. I think he's had a few slowdowns of his own though this race, and Ayrton Williams, I think in front, just had another one. So yeah, they're certainly being given out at the moment. It's easy to get one here though. 7 minutes and 3/4 left to go. Still, Taylor's going to be open, and that ticks down a lot faster all of a sudden on this lap. But this is the top 5 for the race win here, everyone. That is how close the top 5 are. Amazing stuff again from the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Our first ever race here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada. And it's been an interesting one. It's not been the most barnstorming race of the campaign, but it's certainly been an interesting one, hasn't it, Ed? It's a big unknown factor coming here.
Yeah, it was, obviously, just to see how the drivers would manage on such a narrow circuit. It's, I think, one of the tightest ones we've had on the calendar in terms of just the history of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. I was worried it was going to cause more incidents than it has done. The drivers have definitely been on their best behaviours. Oh, I say that. Lewis Ward nearly getting into the back end of Guy Edwards as if on cue. But right now, like you said, it has been a really good circuit that we may come back to for the next seasons because it has been really wonderful. Look at how much the likes of Guy Edwards and Lewis Ward are opening up the corner entry to try and maximise the corner exit. Lewis just not able to get the front end of the Mercedes turned in enough. Car does struggle with that a little bit just due to all of that weight over on the front axle. To get it pitched in is going to be tricky. And now look at this out in front. Taylor Adams and Callum Brandt side by side for the race victory in towards the chicane. Look at Callum Brandt carrying the momentum through. He's in the lead. Wonderful move.
Taylor Adams has a slowdown penalty and Jake Cranstone is through. That is going to change things a lot. Cranstone up into second, Guy Edwards into third, and that puts Jake in an even more impressive position because right now, well, Callum is certainly going to be comfortable taking a win, but Cranstone has cars between himself and Taylor is not really going to be getting much slipstream from there. That's devastating stuff for Taylor. At the end of the day, Callum went for it. He wants the race lead. He wants the race victory. He's got no reason not to go for it. He's got no reason to help anybody else in this title fight. He's just out there to have fun and score some points. As Rob alluded to in the chat earlier, they've not been chasing the team's championship so far this season. They've had a few absences as well, so there's no pressure on any of that. But these guys are absolutely working wonders here, aren't they? 2 cars in podium positions for RD Sim Sport. Certainly a good resurgence at the end of the championship, which we like to see.
Yeah, we do want to see exactly that. But I'm just in awe of that move from Callum Brandt, to be fair. That was wonderful, wasn't it? On Taylor Adams. The confidence as well, just hanging around the outside. The trust in Taylor to make sure that the two weren't going to come to blows on what is probably the tightest couple of corners on the circuit as well. It's just a great advert, I think, for the championship and how the drivers have the ability and the trust in one another to race the way they have been especially tonight, but also just over the course of the whole season. There's Lewis Ward really carrying a lot of momentum through there, isn't he? Got a nice run on Guy Edwards. Is he going to look to the inside? He's going to think about it, that's for sure.
He is as well. He is going to look down the inside. He's going to go down the inside, actually. Lewis puts his nose in there to go left. No, doesn't quite make it work. But wow, great defence there from Guy Edwards. You've got to love that. Brilliant, brilliant racing right to the death here. 4 minutes left to go. There's been a move further down. Dan McCauley continues his run up the orders. Oh, that's Ian Pfeiffer around. I thought he'd overtaken him for a second there, but Ian has had a drama at the final chicane. Dan's actually back to where he started this race. Despite, it seems like Ben Idris Abdullahi's had about 45 slowdowns from every time we've seen him in this race, but he's actually gained 9 positions with that move on Ayrton Williams. Stephen Burns is now side by side with Ian Pfeiffer. Those two right together through the first couple of corners. There's still battles happening all over the place here. This is a brilliant race. As once again, look at that cutback by Pfeiffer. Lovely job. Straight back into the thick of the action, as my friend Niall says. Lovely. Get in.
It's been brilliant. The race has really evolved as well as it's gone on. The driver's not scared of the dark one little bit, are they? They're really going at it into the final 3 minutes. Again, sorry that it's gotten so dark. I don't think me and Chaz were anticipating it being this late in the evening in terms of the sim time, but regardless, it adds an extra dimension, I think, to the racing, which we do also love these night races here for the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Callum, though, he's getting the rich rewards that he's deserved all evening long, with a gap now nearly a second to Jake Cranstone. So he makes his way over the line for around about 2.5 minutes remaining. So it should be, what do you reckon, this lap and one more?
Yeah, I reckon so. Yeah, I reckon it should just about... Yeah, it will be. Yeah, it'll be this lap and one more. We'll only have about 30 seconds left on the clock, I think, when we next cross the line. So Callum, with this 9/10 of a second lead, seems like a mammoth lead compared to what we've seen in the rest of the race. He's got Jake Cranstow just behind. He's about 2 laps away from winning the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge Championship here in Season 5. He's come in here effectively as a privateer, no teammate with him this season. He's been one of the standout performers in the Porsche. I mean, Rob Sharp, who's an absolute Porsche advocate in this series, is in 15th place. He's the next Porsche in the field. Daniel Parron-Smith unfortunately retired early on. Taylor Adams now is 13 seconds ahead of Kyle Ridley, so he's got nothing to worry about behind, but he's 2.4 seconds off the cars ahead of him, so he's not having one to remember. There's an M4 in there somewhere, Ed, behind Toby Ward. Ben Chalcraft popping out now from the left to the right.
Yeah, you can see now the darkness enveloping Ben Chalcraft. You can't see a lot of that Minardi Sim Sport car at all in behind the very brightly coloured boosted Cayman. Ben Chalcraft. You love the crackles as well of this BMW. I don't think you get the same crackling sound on the newer iteration. It seems a lot more finely tuned, which
it's just rubbish.
is, I suppose, one thing to say that it's a more efficient and more finely engineered bit of kit, but we do love the brutal growls and crackles of a less optimised engine.
Absolutely. Oh no. Dennis Van Beelen turns the back straight into a disco, unfortunately, with a big old spin, and that is going to affect his end of the race. But we're on to the final lap now, and Callum Brandt leads here in round 15 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. He's still getting mighty close to the wall. The driver in second position, though, is only about 2/3 of a lap away from taking the title. Jake Cranstone has been incredibly impressive all season. Took a podium in round 3 at Watkins Glen, then won, then finished second, then won, then finished second, then he finished 4th, then he finished second. He's had a hell of a run, and he won the second race at Zandvoort just last week. And I tell you, that has really put him in a strong position now to come here and take the title with 1 race meeting left to go. Oh, contact in the background there for Lewis Ward. Lewis has hit the barrier, and that's going to end his race with a very damaged car. He's got to try and keep it away from Taylor Adams. Flower Power in the chat asking what date is the Fuji race. It's a week today, so the 22nd of October. The season finale will be on, and it's going to rain at Fuji as well, which is mighty spicy. But what can we say about Callum Brandt, Ed? He's been brilliant.
He has been absolutely superb. He's had the pace. Maybe not necessarily the races all his own way, but that move for the race lead was nice and decisive, and it was the killing blow to take race victory here at Montreal. A wonderful drive from Callum.
2 RD Simsport cars on the podium, but Jake Cranstone is the Season 5 Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge champion on his debut season. Aside from Season 1, we've never seen that before, so hats off to Jake. Very, very well done indeed. Lewis Ward finishes in 4th place. Commiserations to Taylor Adams, who finishes 5th. Kyle Ridley is next up, a great return for Kyle. Nils Kaur finishes in 7th after a hard-fought race. Dan McCauley 8th. Ben Idris Abdullahi 9 places to finish 9th. Great drive. Ayrton Williams finishes in 10th. And then a bit further down, we look for Stephen Burns, who's gained 8 places. He's had a great race tonight, aside from that barrier. And then we've got Paul Goffin. He's not too far back either. He's gained 10 spots in this race to move from 26th up there into 16th place. Some valuable points for Paul. And not a bad night for RD Simsport in the Teams Championship either. It's going to be very mixed, actually, Ed, between Apex, Regenta and Satellite Racing Blue. I'm really intrigued to see how the points look after that one.
Yeah, I think topsy-turvy is, I think, the best way we can describe the fortunes for a lot of the teams here tonight, with some drivers scoring big, others having races to forget. It's going to be one that I'm going to look forward to seeing the standings afterwards. I think that was Toby Ward just limping over the line, managed to have about enough fuel in the tank, but not much more than that. But what a season it has been for this man, Jake Cranstone, who's given us a little bit of a light show, isn't he, on his way into the pit lane after what has been a richly deserved season and a richly deserved champion as well.
Yeah, very, very well done to Jake Cranstone. He wins the championship with a 2nd place finish here at Montreal. And I'm trying to remember, did Simon Povey finish the first season in a Porsche when he won?
I don't think so. I think it was the Aston.
I'm pretty sure it was the Aston. Is that the first champion we've had in the Porsche?
I think it is. It must be, yeah.
I think it is. I remember that Simon and Gary had Porsches in that season, but I think they changed to the Aston late on. So, yeah, amazing stuff. Absolutely amazing by Jake Cranstone. It's hurting my head watching this at the moment, to be honest with you, but we'll obviously have a chat with him in just a moment's time. But let's swap it back to some daylight, shall we? Because oh, look at that. So much prettier back then. So we'll have a look then over the results while we've got these pictures, and we'll show you how that race ended up, shall we? Callum Brandt takes the victory, only just under a second ahead of Jake Cranstone, Season 5 champion. Guy Edwards in 3rd place. Great night for RD Simsport. Lewis Ward finishes in 4th ahead of Taylor Adams in 5th. He really fought hard for that. Kyle Ridley had a lonely race in the dark in 6th place though. Big points for him. Nils Kaur was 7th ahead of Dan McCauley and Ben Idris Abdullahi, with Ayrton Williams completing the top 10. Next up was Matt Slight in 11th with John Barnes 12th. Then it was Stephen Burns and Rob Sharp. Ian Pfeiffer was 15th ahead of Paul Goffin, and then Toby Ward with Stephen Codman, Ben Chalcraft and John Roberts completing the point scorers. Then we had Toby Johns, Chris Jennings, Martin Kenyon and Dennis Van Beelen was a lap down, with Heinz Meyer and Simon Price the same. Matthias Tem and Mark Johnson not finishing the race. Neither were Dominic Brennan, Daniel Parron-Smith, Jamie Pounder and Tom Stanley. Poor night for Prestanda Nomad there, Ed. But wow, that was certainly a busy one. But I'll tell you what, why don't we head straight into an interview with our race winner, Callum Brandt. Callum, welcome to the booth, mate. Your 2nd win of the season. That looked difficult, very difficult.
It was, but mostly of my own doing, getting a slowdown on lap 2 or 3 in last chicane. But yeah, after that, yeah, really hard coming through the pack with Jake and fighting Lewis and everyone. But yeah, good fun, and just glad to sort of redeem myself a little bit on that one.
I was going to say that was going to be my next question. Was that a bit of redemption there, taking the win? But I mean, it looked like you always had a really good fight with those guys around you, and they're all lads that you've fought with for quite a while now. So you all seemed quite confident to make moves and battle closely. Is that how it felt in the cockpit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've raced Lewis lots of times, raced Jake quite a few times this season, and Taylor and everyone's pretty respectful, and it's always good fun when you can know you can trust the guys you're racing around.
Absolutely, and obviously, you know, had your teammate in there as well, Guy Edwards. A great night for you in terms of the teams. It's just been a very positive night all round, hasn't it?
Really has, yeah. I've got to thank Guy because he had a little tidbit going into qualifying on a brake balance because I had a bit of pace but couldn't string anything together, and then just managed to find something in qualifying, put it on pole, and then the pace was pretty mega through the race. So yeah, can't thank the team enough.
Well, very well done, Callum. Great to see you back on that top step, mate. It's been lovely to see it. And is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
Just congratulations to Jake on winning a championship and all the guys at RD. And just to say that Simon, please come back and do some more racing because we'd love to have Simon there as well. So.
Fair play, mate. Well, it's great to see. Honestly, Callum, that was really, really good stuff. We love it. And yeah, hopefully we'll speak to you again very, very soon and see you in the finale.
Yeah, will do. Cheers, guys.
Well, Callum Brandt, very, very well-deserving winner there, Ed. I think he had to work very hard for that. But even with his teammates around him, it's not easy to do that, is it? You there, Ed?
Sorry, yep, I was just sorry, but yeah, he really had the pace, didn't he, from the start? And then just seemed to wane a little bit in the mid phase of the race. It was all almost Lewis Ward and Jake Cranstone for a majority of the race, and then Callum Brandt had that late charge, really turned the pace up that we saw from him in qualifying, and richly deserved it because some of the racecraft he was pulling off was immense. I mean, the little opportunism to get the better of Jake when it was himself and Lewis Ward tussling away for the lead, that was wonderful to watch, as well as that obviously decisive move to take the lead at the very end.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing race, especially with the added difficulties of it being dark. Just waiting around for a minute because we've got no other interviewees at the moment. We're waiting to see whether we get Jake Cranstone in so we can have a word with him if he's so available, and he is. Yes, he has popped in at the last moment there. Toby Ward has just offered to be Jake Cranstone if he'd like to do an impression, but we don't need that. We've got the real thing now. Thank you, Toby. But Jake, congratulations first off. You are the champion of Season 5. How do you feel after that one?
I feel good. Those final chicane curves were giving me nightmares every lap as it got darker. But yes, I'm very glad to see the white flag and the end. And I wasn't really sure. We were discussing in the group what we think was enough. I felt like Verstappen at Suzuka, where he got told after the race and he was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, it feels great. Thanks.
Well, it's been amazing to see it. Ed and I were just saying that, you know, we think you might be the first driver to do it in the Porsche, because Simon Povey in Season 1 was in the Porsche, but we think he changed partway through to the Aston, so that doesn't count, that's cheating. So we think the first person to do it in the Porsche, but also on your debut season as well. I mean, did you expect to be that high up when you came into this?
No, seriously, honestly, when I joined, I knew the calibre of the drivers here, and the first round, I think, when I got like 7th or something, I was over the moon with that. I just wanted to come in and get a top 10, and, you know, I'd be happy with myself. But yeah, exceeded all expectations of myself, to be honest.
Well, that's always a lovely thing to carry into the championship, and obviously there's still one race left to go yet, and you get to battle with these guys once more. It seems like Fuji's going to be quite the belter, doesn't it?
Yes, so I mean, is it still going ahead? The weather doesn't look good.
It's definitely going ahead, don't you worry. It's going to belt it down, but it's going to be a bit of a laugh. And I mean, you must feel a little bit more at ease knowing you can go there now with gloves off a little bit and not so much pressure on.
Yes, well, obviously it's just relax a bit now. So yeah, done the hard work.
Oh, actually, to be fair, you know what? I'll go back on that because you were mentally fast in the rain at Watkins Glen. That's where all this started. So yeah, you can stuff that. You can take points off and try and do it again in the rain. But we look forward to seeing it either way, Jake. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to regarding the championship before we let you go?
Well, our usual shout outs first to Ellen, Dave, Ali, everyone watching along at home. Thank you for watching along. I'm sure it's been a great season to watch. I'm looking forward to watching back some of the races myself as well. Thank you to the guys I was racing. Who is it? Ayrton, Lewis, Callum, Guy had some great battles, and obviously Taylor. I feel like this was his championship. If he didn't miss the 2 rounds it definitely would have been very close down to the end. So great battles with everyone near the front. Really enjoyed it.
Fair play, Jake, and great sportsmanship as well. We love to see it. But yeah, congratulations. You are Season 5 champion of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge with 1 round to go. And hopefully we will see you next time round at Fuji and speak to you then.
Yes, thanks Chaz. Thanks Ed. Bye-bye.
Lovely stuff. Your champion, everybody, Jake Cranstone. To be honest, Ed, we knew he was going to go well when he came into this series because we've seen him in the British Boring Car Championship, in Formula 1 before. But he's absolutely smashed it out of the park, hasn't he?
He has. He's really came on leaps and bounds, like you said, from the start of the season where he didn't qualify well, but had a great late charge at Indianapolis. And I think that was a sign of things to come. And, well, you're running out of superlatives because it has been a brilliant season. To wrap it up with still another race meeting to go, with the caliber of driver we have this season, just shows how good Jake has been this season.
It really does, and we go to another driver that's always there or thereabouts, and he's had a bit of an up and down season so far, but Nils Kaur joins us in the box, handing over the championship winning trophy. That didn't look easy out there tonight, Nils, let alone the fact that it went dark.
Oh yeah, hello guys. Right away after quali we already noticed that this is probably not going to be a good round for us. And yeah, it went even worse on the first lap for me, like quite a lot worse. Yeah, but we managed to save it a bit, at least recover to P7 for myself and P10 for Ayrton. A bit unfortunate that Ian spun in the end there, and was quite lucky to avoid him.
Yeah, it was a bit of a busy one all round, wasn't it? Because let alone the fact that it went dark, this circuit, it doesn't let you get away with a single thing, does it?
Dark really wasn't too much of an issue for me. I was kind of just trying to take it easy a bit anyways, with the slowdowns being so heavy. You don't really want to afford to get anyone, a single one of them. Like, just cutting the last chicane a bit too much once and you lose 3 seconds, which I personally feel is a bit too punishing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because, you know, there's a trade-off for how hard people are pushing through there. It's more likely that there will be slowdowns through there, but I suppose that's part and parcel of a circuit like this. But we go to a very different one, with Fuji being the last round of the championship. Obviously, it's where we saw you take your first win in the Sim Racing Magazine umbrella. So are you, well, you might need an umbrella. Are you excited about going there?
Usually I'm not doing too bad at Fuji, but I haven't driven the Aston there yet, and I think it's also a rain round, which is, I just pray for no rain.
Well, I'm afraid it's going to rain. I think we're going to pretty much guarantee it this time as well. So it's going to be a spicy end to the season. Hopefully it goes well for you and the guys. But, I mean, it's been a busy season, hasn't it? The level's been insane.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was pretty tough. Yeah, I'm really a bit unfortunate for both myself and also Ayrton. I think we could have really put up more of a fight to Jake, and but yeah, just had few too many rounds where it just didn't go our way. And yeah, also, as I already wrote in the Discord, a big shout out to Taylor as well. It really looked like he was gonna run away with it at the beginning of the season. Yeah, just a bit unfortunate that he had to miss 2 rounds, and I guess also the fuel limit change didn't help him. So yeah, but big congrats to Jake. He did a mega job the whole season.
Well, we look forward to seeing how the final round goes for you, Niels, and it's always good fun to have you around. So thank you very much as ever, and hopefully we'll speak to you at Fuji. But is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks to before you go?
Yeah, big shout out to Salad Racing, our sponsors, Dr. Deber, and also to my teammates Ayrton and Ian.
Smashing stuff. Great to speak to you, Niels. Thanks very much, and we'll see you again very soon, mate.
Have a good evening.
There we go. Neil's course. I'm a little bit dejected after that one there, Ed, but outgoing champion, you know, he's not had an easy season of it, and maybe it's sort of hit home a little bit, but he's a very competitive bloke, you know. He's always looking into everything he can do to get better and better all the time, and I know he's going to still come out swinging at Fuji, isn't he?
Yeah, it's been a tough season for him, but like you say, at Fuji we're going to expect the very best from him, and also we really saw him burst onto the scene a lot during the winter tour, which I'm sure we'll hopefully see him for as well, which will come shortly after Fuji to round out the season. But what a championship it has been, decided with one round to go by Jake Cranstone. But what a race that was as well for the race victor, not taking the shine at all away from Callum Brandt, because that was a masterful drive.
Yeah, Callum absolutely nailed it tonight. Jake takes the championship, and we still have one round left to go, everybody. Thanks once again, Ed. Thank you again to the championship sponsors, Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes, and Bespoke Shelters. Thanks all of you for watching. Thanks all to the drivers for making it so entertaining here at Montreal. But that is it. Jake Cranstone is the champion of Season 5. We still have a Teams Championship to sort out next time round, so join us a week today when we complete Season 5 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge from Fuji. But for now, enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll see you soon.
4 French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. They're 3 wide again. Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across. They're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
Before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition. And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy. You know, these are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower brake.
Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, he's been moved and it's ready to go out. Ben Gregory now, I love it. 10.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.